people are brought into our lives, usually via law of attraction, to because we have wounding inside of us, something that's called the five soul wounds, which is actually psychology based, um, that revolve around abandonment, rejection, humiliation, injustice, and betrayal. And those wounds are formed between birth and usually like age 7 and 12, and are further perpetuated on uh, during and after that timeline and period of your life, our lives, everyone on the planet, in relationships, familial, friendships, society, just everywhere, people, romantic and otherwise, in our lives, friends. And so we have these wounds in our souls and these like soul contracts that we form. And there's a video in my like scroll. You'll just have to find it. I don't know how to save things into files and stuff. I'll try to figure that out. But anyway, our soul calls like has these agreements that we make with people, and sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're lovers, sometimes there's our spouses, sometimes they're our children, our parents. Sometimes it's past life stuff that we need to reconcile, and usually it's connected to things that we came here to heal in that heart space. And I've been working on certain things specifically in the last year. Well, the last 4 decades of my life. And but specifically the last like 3 years. 4 years. Pretty hardcore. I come from a very judgmental, critical family. Like I grew up being criticized, judged, questioned. It made me question myself. I felt very gaslit. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt like I had to prove myself. And that was like a self-worth wound that I had to work through, and I've been working through in just about every single relationship I've ever been in. And there's a theory, not even a theory, it's like Dr. Phil talks about it, and there's other like psychology things out there about you are the common denominator of every single relationship you've ever been on or in. And it usually comes back to you, and it all comes back to me, because it's like we're all connected. And but I haven't been able to like pinpoint what the trigger is with certain relationships, in the space of like, why am I triggered when somebody questions me or like what I'm saying, when I give my thoughts on something, or when I provide a theory, or when I provide my experience or my perception or whatever, and I feel challenged. It's like, what is that? Where does that come from? Like, what am I feeling right now? I can't. So I'm trying to like psychoanalyze myself and pinpoint a root cause. Like, why do I feel triggered? And it's okay. Triggers aren't bad for me. I like to dig through them, and they don't bother me, and unless I can't figure them out. I'm like, okay, let's figure it out and reconcile them. I kind of think of them as like proverbial subconscious landmines in my heart and or my mind. And when I find them, kind of like on a beach looking for metal, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Like, oh yes, let's get it out. I'm like, okay, let's get it out so I no longer get triggered by it. Let's neutralize the proverbial ticking BOMB. But I have this sacred wounding deck, and it helped me a lot with the trigger I was feeling not too long ago, when I was feeling like I had to over explain myself. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and maybe you can relate to that. And when I was driving in the pickup line at my kid's school right now, and it reminded me of that song "The Devil Inside" by NXS. And it kind of feels like that sometimes. Like, we feel all of these triggers and these feelings in excess. And that song came out in 1988. That year may be important to you. It was important to me. I was 7 in 1988. my little brother had just been born. My parents had just told me they were getting divorced. It was a very tumultuous time period of my life, and a lot of my formative years were chaotic, tumultuous, and stressful. And so when our foundations are formed in stress, um, like that's kind of like where the springboard begins of like how we envision our entire, like how the world is, our world or the universe is. And then it's our job as humans living in this reality to kind of decompress that and or rewire our brains into being like, oh, it's not everybody is like this. The world isn't always like that. Not everybody's going to hurt you. It doesn't always have to be chaotic, distorted, dysfunctional, codependent, hurtful, harmful, abusive. Love doesn't hurt. Hurt people. Even when they don't mean to. Sometimes it's by accident. But anyway, the wound that these cards came up with what I was feeling. I just saw 222 on the plaque, which is trust fall with the universe. That's my number. My angel number is 222. But it says the wound of the hollow embrace. So the trigger I was feeling, it says a connection. This is what that feels like. And I felt this way in every single relationship I've ever been in. Not just with my parents, not just my grandparents, not just like I know that this wound has been felt by my entire family, and that I carry that as a generational cycle breaker. And this says, and I saw 646, which is just confirmation for me. Connection that leaves you lonelier. This wound forms when you're physically close but emotionally unmet. You may be in a relationships surrounded by people, yet feel unseen at your core. It can leave you aching for depth, questioning your worth, and wondering if true intimacy is even possible. And so that is a wound that I've been working on personally. And this is what we call shadow work, by the way. It is working through inner workings of psychology, like personal psychology, and like why we feel the way we feel, and unboxing compartmentalized issues. And then the wound of sleep, the sleeping gift. And this is like, there's a mask. This person is taking a mask off of another person. Like, it's like a shadow self. It reminds me of that. I just saw 747 on my clock. It says, when your power stayed hidden because the world wasn't ready. This wound arises when your brilliance or creativity had to be tucked away to stay safe or belong. You learned to dim what made you different, mistaking dormancy for failure. The gift doesn't vanish. It sleeps, waiting to rise. It can leave you restless, underwhelmed, and longing for a life that reflects who you are underneath. So I've been hiding my authenticity because I've been afraid, because I felt very different, and because the people around me when I was growing up made me feel like I was too much. And because because of that, I felt like I had to be quiet and dim my light. And now that I'm older and feel safer and feel less like they can't persecute me anymore, because I basically said enough and have established boundaries with them. They did persecute me, by the way, a few years ago. They don't do that anymore. It's just a lot of past life, or working through a lot of that stuff, soul contract wise. So, but these are the things that I've been working through. Maybe you can relate. Another one is the wound of the invisible cry. They're covering up their third eye and their crown chakra kind of there, and their mouth, and they're kind of their throat chakra, which that reminds me of the domestic violence. I'm a survivor of that. Suffering unseen, unheard, unheld. This wound forms when your pain goes unnoticed, whether because you hid it, you were taught to minimize it, or you were surrounded by those who couldn't hold it. You learn to cry in silence to cope alone. It can leave you feeling abandoned in your darkest moments and unsure if your needs are worth naming. They are. I am. You are. Just because I can hold other people's wounds and empathize, it doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of being held and being seen and felt and known as well. And this is my season of taking up space. Maybe it's your time too. Blessed be.